Anyway, I figured this piece of aluminium would be a good base for it. Then the heat sinks should go, oops, the other way around. They should go in the front like this. And they'll be screwed down, so they'll be like this, of course. Then I'll mount the boost converters here, so that they overhang the edge here, so I can get the wires in and out. And I'll put some feet underneath the thing when it's finished, so the wires don't touch the table or the floor or whatever it's standing on. And to mount these, I'll just drill some holes in here and tap them, and then drill holes through this plate, and maybe put some standoffs in between so it doesn't sit directly down on it. Then I'll just screw them in place. So there'll be 4 of these, 2 here and 2 here. I'll then cut a piece of 2mm aluminium sheet metal and attach it from here, go to here, and then make a bend, go down and screw into the end of this once I've cut it. That will allow me to mount the batteries on top of there, and I'll use some Velcro tape on one side of these so I can detach them and use them for other stuff. So that will be about level with the top of the heat sinks here. And then I think I'll just connect the handle to this piece. So some screws in the front here and a few tiny ones here, both to hold this together and to give it the handle, as I mentioned. I kind of changed my mind on the cross brace that I wanted from the handle and down to here. I think that will both look stupid, and it won't be necessary if I use thick enough material in the front here. So that's the plan. I'll need to drill some holes in the bottom of the heat sinks here to mount this piece into from the bottom. Then I'll need to drill holes for the regulators. I'll need to cut it to length and make it look pretty. Then we'll have to drill holes into the end of it. That could be a challenge, but it won't be a problem. I can just do it with the hand drill. It doesn't have to be precise. And then the funny part is going to be the handle here. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do that yet, but we'll figure something out. Something that I need to be careful about is I don't drill the holes so they interfere with these screws, but as you can see, this is outside the bottom plate here, and these are very close to the middle, so I should be able to get to in here. So looking from the bottom, those two will attach in the front here, but I think I'll also put a small one in just here, just to keep it a little bit more rigid. I know it won't do much, but I kind of don't like just attaching it in the front here. So let's see where to put the holes, and this measures about 12.5mm, and I guess we can put the center a little further in than the middle. So if we do, like, let's say, yeah, let's put it 7mm from the edge. So we just mark that on the bottom block here. And this block is 62.5mm wide. And it looks like 8mm from the edge will be just fine. And I'll just mark these as well. And this is going to be the bottom side. And if we go 62.5 divided by 2, that gives us the center, so right between these two. And that will also be the edge of this block on this block, so we need to subtract 8 from that. And we get 23.25mm. And that's where the hole should be on this one. The edge is clean on this one, but I need to file the other one because it has a mark on the edge. Looks like I'll be fine actually. I just need a little line there. And let's just check that it indeed lines up. Yep, that should be fine. And I'll just do exactly the same for these two. So I'll go and drill and tap these holes. I think I'll put 4mm in here and 6mm in the front here. And then on this I'll mount it in the vise of the machine and I'll drill these holes. I can just use an edge finder and then I can use the coordinates on the machine. That should be more precise. Even though it doesn't really matter if we're off a few tenths of a millimeter. I don't think these heat sinks are made that precise anyway. So 3.3mm is the tap size for a 4mm hole. I got these new drill bits that increment in 0.1mm as an extra Christmas present from my brother and his girlfriend, so they actually cut very nice. So I just drilled the other one and we'll need to change to a 5mm drill, which is the tap size for the 6mm hole. And here we go, tapping a 4mm hole this time. It might look very similar to tapping a 3 or 5mm hole, but don't get fooled by that. I'm just kidding, it's the same. And now this should be exciting, tapping a 6mm hole. I want to make sure we get it started straight. Yep. So the 3 and the 4mm taps that I got in this type, they work excellent, but the chips seem to bind up in this one. I noticed that on the 8mm as well that I cut for the plug, so I'll just grab another one. Yep, so that was the bottom right there. So this one seems to clear the chips a little bit better. It's also a spiral flute tap though. Now one got caught in there, but it almost went to the bottom in one go. The good thing about the spiral flute taps is that you don't really have to break the chip because they don't get caught in there, but if they do, then you have to bag it all the way out because, yeah, you can't just break the chip like a normal tap. Well, maybe that was the bottom actually. Maybe I should have checked that. Yeah, it kind of looks like it. And I think if you actually follow the recommendations, you're not supposed to tap deep holes with these spiral flute taps. They're really only meant to start the hole in a machine, and then you can finish it by hand. But they do work if you're a little careful. So I mounted the other piece in the vise here. I will drill the 6mm holes here and the 4mm here. To find the edge, we will use an edge finder. So that's that, and then we'll move in 7mm. And that's right there. Then I'll just lock that axis so we don't move it accidentally. Oops, that's the other one. And then we'll take this one. Same thing. And that's 8mm, which puts us right in the center of that. So I just took the chance and used the center drill here. Sorry I didn't get that on tape because memory card ran out. And we'll drill that 6mm. And then we should move 46.5mm from here to here. I moved back to this edge, so now I need to move in 27.5. So I'm going to use 4mm by 20 in these two, and 6mm by 20 in these. And it looks like it's going to fit, so now we can test it in the heat sinks. And we'll just do a very quick test fit here just to see that the holes line up. Well, they all go in, so at least it has to be almost right. And they actually kind of line up. So that's good news. There's a little gap down here, if you can see that on the camera, but we can just pull it together like this. So when we drill the holes in the top correctly, then it should pull together. Else that little gap doesn't really matter if we're not getting rid of it. So the next part is going to be the aluminium bracket that the batteries will sit on. Kind of like this. And then room for 2 batteries, of course. So there's a few things we need to consider, because we need to fasten it to the heatsink, and it doesn't really need to hold much, so I think we can just use this middle section here, and then we will fasten it down here. So it'll have to look something like this. I'll just cut it as one sheet and then bend it. But before we bend it, we need to make 2 holes in here and 2 holes down here. But we also need to cut out for the fans here, because we can only fit 1 battery in between, so I have to pull them back a little and put them here like this. So the bracket needs to be wider than this space, and then it will narrow in here so it can go in between. So seen from the top, it will look something like this. And then we'll have to bend it like there and here somewhere. I don't really know how much material the bend will take. This one is not really critical, it just sets the height of the whole thing. That could be a few millimeters off, that doesn't matter. But this one down here, if we get both off, then it will kind of be at an angle, which will look stupid. So I think I'll leave some excess in this end, and then when I have bent this one, and I screw it in here, I'll measure it and make sure it's level. Then I'll mark where the hole should be on the end that's then sticking down here. Oops, I just destroy everything. Then we'll have some slack here, and then I can pull it around a little and clamp it where it's level, and then I'll mark where to drill the holes in the bracket here. And I'll also draw a line so we can cut it flush with this one. So looking at these boost converters, I don't think I need to put spacers in between here, because all the transistors are isolated from the heatsink, so it can only get the ground through these screws if they have put it there. I'm not really sure. It doesn't look like it though, and it doesn't really matter since the grounds are connected anyway. So for the height we'll need approximately 10 centimeters, and the length is 17, that's 27. Then plus our little tap there, that should be about 1.5 centimeter. Let's call it 2. That's 29. And then I just need to decide how much clearance I want. How about 1 centimeter? That makes it 30 centimeters. Let's just double check that. So that's 17 plus 2, that's 19 plus 11, 30. So I'll cut it 31. And the width of 2 batteries, that's 10 centimeters. And you know, actually now I measure it between the fans here, we got 9 centimeters, so I think I can leave the battery hanging out the edge here like 0.5 centimeter on each side. That shouldn't matter. So if I go and make this 8.5 instead of 10, then I definitely don't have to cut anything away here. I can just taper it in to fit this side down here, because that's only 62.5. So the best plate for the job is only 30 centimeters. But since I don't need this end here, I get another 0.5 centimeter in excess. So I think I can do with a 30 centimeter. Then I just need to make one cut this way. And since I'm lazy, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Excuse me, but didn't I say 8.5? And now would have been a great time to have a shear cutter, but I don't, so I'm thinking like how I'm going to cut it. And I hope we don't have too many woodworkers watching, but this actually works pretty well. So that was surprisingly easy to cut with a handsaw actually, and it does fit between here. Now I'll just need to mark where to bend it, mark where the hole should be, and then we can drill that end and bend it, and then we should be able to measure where to bend the next one. I'm going to use 3mm screws into this one here, and probably 4mm into this one. The plate here is 10mm, so that should be good enough. I think I'll stick with my 1.5cm bend here, so that I have some room to get the screwdriver in there, because I don't have any socket head screws that small, so I only have the Phillips. And let's just double check my dimension here to see how close to 8.5 we got. So I'm at 85.6, but I'll also file this end down a little bit, I think, just to make it nice and smooth. So I'll just use the factory edge as a reference, and we say that's 85mm. Then we divide it by 2, 42.5, and then we know that 3.75mm is the center of this, or thereabouts. That's what we used for the last set of holes, so we'll do that again. So minus 3.75, 75. So that's 38.75. And then we go plus 2 times 3.75, 46.25. And that's our 2 holes. And of course they're not going to be there. You're probably screaming at me, but let's just put it 7mm from the edge. So I should be able to get that with a screwdriver. So I went and drilled those 2 holes. That's not super interesting, so I skipped it. And now we're going to make the bend, and it should be 90 degrees this way, so we get the nicer of the 2 sides upwards. I put 2 aluminium blocks in here just to make sure that it got a nice clean edge to bend against, and also so we don't put marks in it with the jaws of the vise. And now I should be able to bend it. And that was a little bit crooked, so well, nothing you can't fix with a hammer though. It's still not 100% perfect, but nobody will notice, so we're not going to think more about that. Now we just need to figure out where to put the other bend. So to measure it, I just went and put this against the bottom plate, and then marked this line here where it overhangs the back end of the light. And to make sure we get the distance correct between here and here, I made it so that the line will stay here, and what's below that is the dimension that we want. This we don't really care about, so this can bend over. So hopefully this will fit now. So it does seem to fit rather nicely, actually. There's plenty of clearance for the wires to go through here, and the battery just about gets flush with the top of this one. So I think actually I'll just leave it like this, and then I don't need to cut anything off the bottom here.